Welcome back to Lotus on Track, where we head to Oulton Park for the Lotus Cup UK.
Today's qualifying was tricky out there, very wet. It's changing all the time, so the races looks interesting. I'm sure we'll get some few dives into the pits last minute, and we're set up for an exciting one, I reckon.
It was very slippy out there. Just very, very wet. You had to be very careful about where the grip was and where the grip wasn't. Of course, we've now got racing wets, which is something novel to us, and it's a case of just exploring how much grip those tyres are going to give you.
This then is how the huge field lines up, with Ken Savage. Very good pole position from Jamie Stanley, and it's Rob Fenn and Adrian Hall row 2. Andrew Bentley's V6 and Freddie Hetherington on the third row. Adam Gore well up in the production class and the field overall in 16th position from Stuart Plotnick, Adam Knight and Jason Baker amongst those vying for championship honours amongst the production class. Over 30 of them qualifying. Watch for the Gisela Ketvel James Littlejohn car to come good during the race when Littlejohn is at the wheel. And then completing the 31 car pack, it is Ashley Woodman who rounds out a gigantic field. Rolling start as ever in the Lotus Cup UK. The pace car peels off, and it's Ken Savage then who leads the pack along the treacherously damp start and finish stretch here at Oulton Park and into Outlon for the first time, where Savage and Jamie Stanley go wheel to wheel, and it's Ken Savage who just leads the way out of Outlon. Liz Halliday, think of the action, just going sideways in pursuit of Steve Trainers down into Cascades, where it's a little bit drier, and it is leading the way Ken Savage, who's got the advantage, pulling clear of Adrian Hall, then Jamie Stanley who's next along, then the slight gap back to Rob Fenn, and the rest of the field. Freddie Hetherington also showing strongly in the bright yellow exige as Jamie Stanley goes for a very, very bold move on Adrian Hall for second position into the Shell Oils hairpin. Stills out a bit wide, he pushes Hall out wide, so I'm not sure Adrian Hall will be overly impressed with that. Not on the first lap of the race. Further back, Liz Halliday and Chris Setter's going to wheel as well. In the brakes into Britain's. I was going to say they do well to give those curves a wide berth, because I imagine they're still quite damp. Clattering over them, go the pack. Andrew Bentley and Freddie Hetherington go side by side into his lot. They've got then Marcus Jewell and Simon Deacon in hot pursuit as well. So they accelerate out of his lot and up over Clay Hill for the first time in car, with Marcus Jewell in pursuit of Andrew Bentley. And he's already been successful here today, of course. Lotus on Track Elise trophies. It's Ken Savage who leads the way over the line, completes the opening lap of the race. He's already opening up some daylight between himself and Adrian Hall. Then we've got Jamie Stanley and Rob Fenn before we get to this really very, very tight group behind Marcus Jewell. Tiptoes his way into Outlon, which is emphatically the trickiest part of the circuit at the moment in terms of the overall track conditions. In car with Liz Halliday, she's in pursuit of the BJ Chong and Paul McNeely car, which runs very wide and pitches sideways and tags Halliday and throws her off the road. And Liz Halliday completely innocent in that. There was absolutely nothing she could do to avoid the car rotating in front, and to make it even more galling, that car recovers as Rob Fenn encounters trouble. So a real shame there for Rob Fenn, the Go Green racing car, all of which prompts the safety car to be introduced. Recovery works get underway. There's a spin for Setters as well on the safety car. Right, safety car is in. Racing gets back underway, and Marcus Jewell already anxious to try and move himself clear of Andrew Bentley as they sprint towards Outlon once more. Be mindful of the incident that brought out the safety car, and therefore not run too wide. And Jewell gets the exit, propels himself past the big Evora of Andrew Bentley, leaves him into the clutches of Simon Deacon as well as they accelerate through Cascades along Lakeside. Still sees just a little bit of sheen of moisture on the track, just the way that the light's reflecting off it, so they've still got to be careful until they've got their tyres fully up to temperature. Through Island Bend then come the group fighting for fourth position, because it's still Ken Savage, Adrian Hall and Jamie Stanley who are out clear at the head of the field. It's Marcus Jewell in fourth, Andrew Bentley fifth, Simon Deacon sixth, then the gap back to Steve Train and Freddie Hetherington. All of them then jump on the brakes into Britain's, just a little bit of curve hopping indulged in before they accelerate up over Hilltop and into the heavy braking zone. Pizzi's where you can gain a little bit of ground, but it's very easy to outbrake yourself as well, as Marcus Jewell dives to the inside. Jamie Stanley completely gets the corner wrong, slithers back on track, and is very fortunate not to be collected by those around him. And that wasn't really a bid to overtake Jamie Stanley, but rather a catastrophic error from Marcus Jewell. That means he also loses ground to Andrew Bentley and Simon Deacon, who takes the opportunity to squeeze through as well as they accelerate over Clay Hill. In the production class, Adam Gore pretty comfortably in command of proceedings, mixing with some of the exiges as one of his rivals pulls off to a very smoky halt. Jamie Stanley gets all boxed in behind one of the production runners, around he goes. And that was Gisela Ketfel, he was caught behind, and Jamie Stanley spinning around in the exige. Completely innocent in that was Jamie, just caught slower car. Not an awful lot he could do. Meanwhile, Andrew Bentley looking to make the move on Simon Deacon, who's picked his way through the field. And this time it's Deacon who runs wide across the grass and slithers sideways and into the path of Marcus Jewell. Contact is made. Jewell's got off with that fairly lightly. Simon Deacon, I fear, could well be not going much further. He may well have picked up some damage at the front of his 211 as a result of that. There's also a little bit of fluid coming from Jewell's car. We see the end of Jamie Stanley's moment. Avoided Gisela Ketfel, who did the right thing. She'd pulled off the racing line. Stanley unsighted. A lurid and wild spin for Stanley as the pit window is open. And the race about to be turned on its head. The first of the cars in then is the Ratcliffe and Dunn car. Anthony Dunn proffering a little bit of advice. Andrew Bentley also in to hand over to Adrian Lester. Marcus Jewell takes the opportunity to peel in as well. Gives the trackclub.com team a chance to inspect the damage. As the Evora is topped up, Andrew Bentley rehydrates and goes to pass some advice on to Adrian Lester. As Marcus Jewell gets strapped back into the cockpit of his 211. A slightly battle-scarred 211 also rejoining the fray is the Adam Gore production class leader. As the race leader, Ken Savage, comes into the pits, hops out of the cockpit. She's got to do with the cars being refuelled. Adrian Hall in as well, so the race really going to be tipped on its head a little bit for these latter stages. Once Hall and Savage rejoin, we'll see where they are in relation to some of their rivals. This is also the opportunity for the single driver efforts to be consistent rather than spectacular to move up through the field. So Ken Savage rejoins the track now, as does Adrian Lester. And here we go then, it's Savage who leads. Second place Adrian Hall, and climbing up to third, the reigning champion in the Supersport Championship is Steve Train. And Train on the tail of Adrian Hall, looking to try and make his way through, which he's going to do into Island Bend. He's got the inside line and goes flying through in the blue 211. So Steve Train gains the position on Adrian Hall. That propels Train up into second, and he now sets about chasing down Ken Savage. Savage, who came oh so close to being the debut champion in the Lotus Cup UK, up for a fairly traumatic engine failure at the final round at Brands Hatch. He got it all sewn up. Well, this year he's graduated up to the Supersport Championship, brought himself a 211, and this is really the first time the car has been right at the front of the field. And Ken has driven supremely well all day, but he's being reeled in very, very rapidly here by Steve Train. You just wonder whether it's a matter of time before Train is able to overhaul Ken Savage. Accelerates out of Knickerbrook. They're also catching a couple of the production class runners as well, which could be a slight distraction for them. There is Simon Deacon's car, sitting forlorn at the edge of the circuit as Savage gets boxed in behind John Lemaster, and that is Steve Train's opportunity. He nicks the inside line and takes the lead of the race away from Ken Savage, and Savage maybe just momentarily distracted by Lemaster's Elise, and that is the opening that Steve Train needed. He waited for the perfect moment, pounced, and has snatched the race away from Ken Savage, and actually into the latter stage of the race as well. Will Ken Savage, though, be able to fight back and overhaul Steve Train? The pair of them accelerate out of Shell Oil's corner and on to the chicane at Britain's. Train from Savage. They've both got a little bit of daylight between themselves and Adrian Hall. Where is Hall? There he is. In fact, he's not too far back, really. If they slow themselves down, battling amongst themselves, and that could give Adrian Hall the opportunity to put himself into the fight for the lead. As into Lodge corner for the final time comes Steve Train, who has fairly emphatically pulled away from Savage. He's actually been passed off camera by Adrian Hall. So accelerating over dearly for the final time. The checkered flag is ready and waiting. And it's victory in the Lotus Cup UK for Steve Train. Second place goes the way of Adrian Hall, and third for Ken Savage. Let's have a look then at the results amongst the Supersport class. Top three, as in the race overall, Train from Hall and Savage, Marcus Jewell in fourth, and then Glenn Sheridan and Jamie Stanley winning the Exige class, and fifth position from Adrian Lester and Andrew Bentley. In the production championships, Adam Gore from Radcliffe and Dunn, and then Andy Napier once more on the podium from Stuart Plotneck and Andrew Wright. In terms then of the Supersport results by group, the 211s, Steve Train from Ken Savage and Marcus Jewell. The open runners, Adrian Hall from Jeff Milam, Steve Guglielmi, and then Doug and Chris Setters. The Exige Cup, Sheridan, Jamie Stanley from Phil Capstick and Brooks, and then the V6 Cup, Adrian Lester and Andrew Bentley.
Steve, P9 to overall win, new sequential gearbox paddle shift this weekend, did that help you?
It certainly helped a little bit, Steve. You know, it's a little bit quicker than a manual gearbox, but a bit less to do, I suppose, so more time with hands on the steering wheel certainly helped. But yeah, enjoyed it, it was a good race.
After Oulton Park then, in the Supersport Championship, it's Jeff Milam who shares the lead with Steve Guglielmi and Steve Train, the reigning champion, just 2 points back. And then it's a slight gap back to Phil Capstick and Ben Brooks in fourth. In the production championships, Andy Napier who leads the way, 17 points clear of Andrew Wright, with Stuart Plotneck in third. Well, fantastic action at Oulton Park and across Europe from the Lotuses. Thank you for watching. Join us again in a few weeks' time for more Lotus on Track action.